Do you look like John taking a shit when you perform a deadlift? Or perhaps you always miss your deadlift right before lockout? Or maybe you feel super self-conscious about the fact that your back is bending heaps whilst you perform the deadlift. This video may be the answer that you need to hit your next deadlift PR. Alright, welcome back to another YouTube video. Appreciate all the support that we've received so far from our last two videos, I think. It's been really good. So thank you everyone for all your likes and comments and new subscribers as well. It really does help the channel grow. So today we're talking about why or how do we fix rounding our back in the deadlift. So rounding your back in the deadlift is somewhat seen to be a negative thing, but really it's something that is telling you that you need to probably work on it to get better at deadlifting. So today we're going to talk about lower back rounding in the deadlift and how you can program or position yourself in a way to make you stronger. So we're going to go over a few exercises, but essentially what is lower back rounding? So lower back rounding is when you're picking up a bar off the floor and your lower back loses position where it finds itself flexing and creates a poor moment arm to extend so you can lock out that barbell. So there are definitely some ways around we can program this through what Benny and I are going to show you today to ensure that you can obviously make your lower back a lot stronger to deadlift and lock out that bar. So I'm just going to draw what an ideal spine looks like when it comes to deadlifting. And it all comes down to basically being able to get yourself into a position where you can hold extension through your lower back so you can be able to use your legs all the way through the entire range of motion. So this is what an ideal spine is when you're in the starting position. So this is our upper back and this is our lower back, okay? Suck it, fucking writing down on it. Anyway, so what we want to see is kind of like an S, okay? So there's some kyphosism through the upper back and lordosis through the lower back, okay? And what people tend to struggle is holding this position here where they're coming off the floor and they let it go and then all of a sudden you're in relative flexion throughout the whole entire back, and that's where you see a lot of people looking like a dog taking a shit, or you know, they're getting their tail stuck between their legs, and it's a really difficult position to get yourself out of because not only are you pushing your center of mass back more, but you're going to have to extend further forward by the time you get to the lockout position. So something which can really help finish that deadlift position or finish that deadlift rep is by making sure that you're starting a little bit more extended at the start so your body doesn't have to work as hard or I guess as unsafely as it does to get the bar to a locked out position in the deadlift. So today, Benny Roberts and myself, we're going to go over some exercises, some really basic exercises that you can do to strengthen up these tissues here through direct lower back training so you can lock out that deadlift and hold position throughout the entire repetition.
All right, so the first exercise we're going to run through is the most regressed version of training lumbar extension through hip extension. And so that's basically doing a laying hip thrust, but what we want to do is hold anterior pelvic tilt, feel our lumbar spine and the erectors of our lower back contracting, and then raise our pelvis to the ceiling without using our glutes. So again, this is for people who have not as much development in their lower back. Someone like myself will be able to get my hips to a certain point. Someone like Aiden, who's really developed in his lower back, will be able to get them even higher. You just get into a laying hip thrust position. Tuck into anterior pelvic tilt and it should feel very tight in your lower back. And then without using your glutes, push the pelvis to the ceiling. And ideally you should feel a little bit of hamstring here as well. You can either hold these for 30 to 40 second isometrics, or if you can't hold the position for that long, just do reps. So that's how to do the movement correctly. So a few things that you want to look out not to do during this exercise is as you push, falling into a posterior pelvic tilt and tucking your pelvis underneath, because then you're just going to be using more glutes and defeating the whole purpose of the exercise. Anterior pelvic tilt is this way. Posterior pelvic tilt this way. We don't want this. We want this.
Why don't you want that one, Benny? All right, so the next one that we're gonna be doing is a GHR. So we're gonna be doing like hamstring and lower back dominant GHR. I'm gonna make 2 different types of it, just so it's like kind of regressed and a little bit more progressed once I find a bamboo stick.
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
Oh, fuck, I'm gonna hit myself in the head. We'll start with the regressed version because I don't really want to light my hamstrings and back up before I squat today. But basically, the goal is to get to body weight, right? Like you wanna get your back and your hamstrings strong enough so you can hold an anterior pelvic tilt, because that's what's gonna benefit your deadlift the most for people who lose their lower back position. So as Benny said in the hip thrust, is that if you're using your glutes or you're posteriorly tilting your pelvis, you're not getting the best bang for buck out of these exercises. So if you feel any glute, like that's bad, okay? Don't do that because you're probably really strong at them anyway because you're always relatively extended through your hips. So hold a flexed hip position, lengthen those glutes, hop into your GHR like so. And what you wanna do is, you wanna push your feet back against the plate so your heels are in contact. And then what you wanna do is you wanna make sure that you're driving back into the plate as you are going down, and you're coming back up to this position of 90 degree of knee flexion, and you're staying extended the entire time, okay? So I've got these sticks because I don't really want to tear my hamstring to start with. But the main thing is that you're pushing back as you're feeling lower back the entire time and you're shoving your pelvis out. All right, so I'm sticking my bum, okay? And I'm using the sticks as a guide to get myself all the way back up so I can get a full range of motion and I can feel my lower back and my hamstring working the entire time. Do you see how like I'm driving my feet back into the plate as well? That's also really important. But whilst I'm doing this, I'm not feeling any glute, okay? A good cue to think about is that you just want to spread your bum cheeks apart. It's probably the best way to describe it, whilst you're going all the way down and all the way up. It's actually quite funny, like, I think it was like 2020, 2020, when people were talking heaps about like nutation and counter nutation of your sacrum and stuff like that. Like this is probably a little bit too complex for this video, but really at the end of the day, what everyone was talking about is just getting more, I guess, competency around being able to strengthen and train your lower back in a position that makes it, I guess, allowable for you to get under the bar and not lose position in your squat and deadlift. So yeah, less about like nutating and counter nutating, like I got stuck in that for a while, but more about direct lower back training. Like that's where I think the meat and bones are of the actual positions that you want to try and gain, is by strengthening that actual tissue itself. Train it like any other muscle. You know when people talk about training their calves and they say you just train the exact same as any other muscle, it's literally the same for your lower back. Like you don't treat it any different to any other, I guess, muscle group on your body. So progressive overload, start easy. As you get better, you get into it, and you should be able to get to a point when you get like this. Okay, so pushing into the plate, anterior tilt, heaps of lower back, feeling hamstring. So I'm aiming not to feel my lower back as I come up. Sorry, my glutes, aiming not to feel my glutes as I come up, and feeling all upper hamstring and lower back. And then you get out and you should be feeling a bit like this. And you're ready to go do a deadlift.
Alrighty, so third exercise is toe elevated RDL. So we can do this with a couple of variations, with the barbell, with dumbbells, or if you're at a competition and you can't get either of them, you can even hold 2 10-kilo plates also in your hand and just hinge as well. But similar ideas to what we've been going through on the first and the second exercise is that we want to hold lumbar extension, traveling through hip flexion and hip extension. So I'll quickly demonstrate. So, toes are elevated on the little deadlift platform, and you want to hold the barbell so it's forward, so you can create a more difficult lever for your lower back to hold, and hinge So the main reason that we'd want to use a barbell for this is because it is more specific using a fixed piece of equipment than using dumbbells. So when you go to do, say, your deadlifts or even the squat, it's just with a fixed piece of equipment, right? So the second advantage to using the barbell is that it's going to limit your range of motion as well. So obviously with a dumbbell you can travel further through opposed to using this, which in turn, if you're taking it through a larger range of motion to begin with, you could actually start losing your extension and then just feeding into that flexed lower back position, which is already your issue. So as you gain more and more progression with this exercise as well, you may get to the point where you don't actually have to elevate your forefoot anymore, and you're just able to push your center of mass over the forefoot and travel through the range of motion as normal. And you want to just continually improve on it like any other exercise, as we were saying, like, you know, just train your lower back like any other movement. So progressively overloading and just getting better at the movement as you go.
All right, well that wraps it up. Pretty short, sweet video for you guys. Mainly just going around obviously like the exercises that we do here at Hunter Performance Center to train our lower back directly and how we can hold a nice stiff position in our deadlift. But also you can use these exercises to help improve your position in the squat as well. So if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up and a comment, but also subscribe to our channel because it really supports us and helps us grow. We want to try and keep obviously putting this sort of content out where it's obviously free and accessible, but getting you guys training more safely and obviously hitting more PRs in the gym. Rightio, we'll see you in the next video.